Two 5G towers got married. The ceremony was okay, but the reception was amazing. Hey, what did the hackers out of office reply say?
What?
Gone fishing. Fishing. Okay.
Boo.
Oh, this was funny. Hey, someone cracked my password. Now someone cracked my password. Now I need to rename my cat. No, nothing.
You want a good dad joke? Here you go. You know, I was looking at our ceiling the other day. It's not the best, but it's definitely up there.
Oh, yeah. Good job. Good job.
It's What You're Watching. Welcome to What You're Watching, presented by Geeky a show where we dive into what's currently on our screens. Big screens or little screens, size matter not here. Just the quality or lack of our cues. I'm Chris Nitro. This week we're continuing our review and recap of The Acolyte, diving into episode 7. AP is a leg guy, and it shows in his cinema choice of this week, long legs. Eric is boldly going into watching Star Trek Prodigy, and I'm going to elbow drop you with my thoughts on The Iron Claw. Anthony, take it away.
Well, folks, I will try not to elbow drop you into my recap of The Acolyte episode 7. All right, we're in the home stretch. And as a reminder, if you're not into spoilers, well, fast forward about 10 or 15 minutes, you've been warned. Episode 7 came out this past Tuesday and was essentially episode 3, but from a different point of view. See what I did there? That was my dad joke, okay? Episode 3, titled Destiny, showed us what happened on Brendock from May and Osha's perspective, leading us down some rabbit holes. And if you want to check out that recap episode, we'll leave a link in the show notes. Leaving episode 3, we were beginning to ask the question, how naughty are the Jedi? Well, in episode 7, titled Choice, we get to find out. So what did we find out? Saul is so needy for a Padawan that he decides to insert his authority, reject the advice of his superior, and crash a coven of witches that were simply minding their own dark side business. Not only that, we get to see the catalyst for May's anger and the fact that Saul, takes out Mother Anastasia in a bizarre, trigger-happy moment, which is very unbecoming of the Jedi. Oh, and he also had the chance to save both Osha and May, but because he has his light-sided heart set on Osha, he let May fall into a chasm. Terrible mentoring. Oh, and we get to see the angsty, beardless Torbin race off to prove a virgins in the Force and nearly start an intergalactic incident on the way, just so he can get back home to Coruscant because he's bored. Yes, that actually happened. So, outside of a lot of nods to the prequels, OT, and sequels, there weren't a lot of big aha moments outside of Saul killing Anastasia and seeing how much of a baby Torbin is. Now, speaking of nods to the prequels, a fun Easter egg, there's a reference to a hyperspace incident that wiped out all life forms. Now, I believe this is a nod to the very first High Republic book, Light of the Jedi, which starts out with the Jedi coming to save the day after a ship explodes in a hyperspace lane. The pieces taking out planets left and right. It's pretty intense. Chris, you actually introduced me to that book. Did you catch that little Easter egg there?
I did, and I was excited when I heard it. I was like, I actually know something. I heard that one before.
I know, me too. I was like, oh, Chris is going to love this one. So, Chris, were there any major ahas for you in this episode? Seeing episode 3, in essence, from a different perspective, were any of your suspicions confirmed or your tinfoil hat theories confirmed in this episode yet?
I mean, the biggest takeaway that I have from this episode is a cinematic one, right? It's not so much story progression or anything to that effect, but what this reminded me of was Rashomon, right? The old samurai film. I don't even think if it's a samurai film. It's just an old Japanese film. and I don't know why I'm blanking on the director's name.
It's
George
Kurosawa.
Lucas has. There you go, Kurosawa. Yep. Right. So Rashomon is Kurosawa's first foray, or first international smash hit that kind of like really brings Japanese cinema to the West. I think it was 1950, 1951 maybe, and it's a story told from the perspective of four people, and it's different every time. So it's in the nod. It's a nod to the taking liberties, or taking I forget the word, taking using Kurosawa as a source, right, for Star Wars, right, because we see it in the original trilogy. It's everyone has, even George Lucas himself has said it, he's taken from Kurosawa, and then we see that continue on in The Mandalorian, right, with Lone Wolf and Cub. And now it further continues, right? You're seeing a story told from different perspectives. So no huge surprises to me. Nothing reaffirmed or changed my perspective on whatever, other than the fact that this episode is made to make you think, like, there's always two sides of a story, or multiple sides to a story. So I enjoyed that part most about episode 7.
Very nice. Eric, Saul, we got to see a very interesting side of Saul, almost a likeness to Qui-Gon when he kind of discovers Anakin and wanting to vouch for this kid who's a little too old. What did you think of Saul's character direction in this episode, and like where he took it, and do you think he did some of the right things as a potential Jedi master to a Padawan?
Well, I think he came across as a relatively new Jedi master, I feel like, or knight. I don't know if was he a master in this one yet? I'm not sure, but
I don't know.
He came across as relatively new, right? And it makes sense, and it's interesting how he's so passionate about this individual, like you said, that he wants to run after. So he was maybe behaving a little bit more rash than usual, right? And I could also see, though, because I watched this again, where, if you find yourself in some those kind of situations and you go, it's a really intense standoff, right? Essentially, when like Sith hit the fan, and I could see how in those situations you're like, well, it's time for me to whip out my lightsaber and all the things that happen. I think that, all throughout the entire show, people were like, oh, you're going to see that maybe Saul or whoever is the big bad. But I didn't walk away feeling like there was a big bad. I walked away feeling like, wow, that's just a set of really unfortunate situation that happened. So I didn't walk away feeling different about the guy. I'm glad that we finally got the full story, because, oh my gosh, Saul has been trying to tell us a story for 7 episodes now at this point, right? And so thank you, Saul. Right. Thank you for letting me finish telling the story. And it will be interesting to see how it plays in. I will say, my least favorite person continued to be Torbin. Like, what is the deal? I think,
the worst.
Oh, I'm so bored. I want to go home. Like, really? Like, this is what we expect out of Padawan these days? And how did he, in 16 years, go from, I want to just go home, to Master Torbin, right? Like, what else has he accomplished since coming back, to give him this opportunity? Oh, the mustache helped.
He grew a beard.
Oh,
that's
my
how
God,
he became a master.
terrible facial hair still. But
oh, you mean he taped a beard on? There you go. He didn't grow it.
So bad.
So yeah, I mean,
so
like,
bad.
I see that. And by the way, like, I didn't think that he was choosing between May and Osha. I think he legitimately was not strong enough to be able to do all that, right? And then so I guess he is choosing the sense of, maybe I can save the one I have deeper connections with, but I don't think he was able to kind of save both. And
yeah,
I could see how you don't want to talk about it, because this is such an awkward thing, and Trinity told us not to talk about it, right? And so
yeah. I like how you call her Trinity, by the way.
If Trinity tells you not to do it, you don't do it. So
that's right.
But yeah,
that's
I mean,
right.
I did not. I walked away feeling satisfied that we finally got the full arc of the story, and I look forward to see how they're gonna actually close it out with a bang. On Tuesday for the last episode. But what do you think, Anthony?
So I'm with you on all of the above, and I kind of speaking of Torbin, how I thought it was really interesting to, not that I need more Torbin in my life, but that moment where in episode 3 where we see him kind of have a Jedi mind trick played on him by Anastasia and the Coven, and he kind of blacks out and goes onto his knees. This episode we got to see, I think for the first time ever, what the subconscious actually looks like when you're under the influence of a Jedi mind trick. Like time comes to a screeching halt, and the person who's doing the mind trick on you is literally in your mind having a conversation with you. I thought that was really interesting, and since Ahsoka, where we got to see what's it called, the Force. It's where they go into like the Force and they're on that kind of intergalactic highway and things like that. We saw that in the animated shows, but we haven't seen it in live action. It'd be really interesting to see more of what the real Force looks like in reality. So like when you say he wasn't strong enough to hold both of them, what does that look like from the Force perspective? Anyway, I thought that was a really interesting creative choice and a choice from the writing gallery to show that. But I'm with you. There were no big ahas. I was hoping that this episode would have had more of Chimere's arc, but I think we're going to get that in next week's episode or this week's episode. The episode will be coming out this Tuesday, the 16th. And I think Leslie Hayland, in an interview with The Nerdist, actually shared that this final episode will tie a lot of things up rather nicely, but also set some things up for a potential season 2, which they have not been confirmed for a second season just yet, which is odd. It's not odd. When you have a hit show, you usually find out within like the first 5 or 6 episodes if it's going to get picked up for a second season. We haven't heard boo from Disney just yet. Not sure what they're waiting for. Hopefully they're not taking the review bombing to heart. But yeah, it's I can't wait for episode 8 because I want Chimere to be Plagueis. That's all I want. That's what I've wanted since episode 1. Gosh darn it.
Which we haven't talked about this yet. Talk about mind control. Talk about mother. I mean, holy crap. We were so disappointed that we did not get a Kelnaka fight a few episodes back. We got an angry Wookiee who just went hog on all the things. And, the 2 parts to that, right? I think, like, I need more. I need the extended version of that fight. And then 2, what Master Indara did to Kelnaka, that resulted in all the witches, I don't know, fainting dead, like all that kind of stuff. It's like, what was that, right? Yep. And so those are cool stuff. That's like Megaforce right there. Like she wiped out the entire coven. Like they were dead, right? Like she like. We don't know.
I mean, they look well. They all burnt. Love that chicken from Coven. Oh, come on. No. By Arthur Miller.
My thought on, yes, it was an amazing Wookiee fight, right? Like I was fully expecting some arms to get ripped off. But he caught him in that arm lock at one point, and I was like, it's gonna pop off, but I was like, no, this is Disney Plus, it's not gonna happen. But I'm of the mindset, I don't think, like, even though she says that she's going to tie a knot onto a lot of things or put a bow on it, I don't think 1 episode's enough. I think we're just way too far out into the weeds. We didn't address, we didn't see Chimere this entire episode. Like, how do you go back to that, his, I don't know what you want to call it, his spa time. Like I don't what like how do you go back into that story and bring Osha back into this? Like we have a singular episode, and like unless it's like an hour and a half long episode, I don't know how they can put a bow on it.
So what do you hope to see in episode 8?
I honestly don't want it to finish. Like I like the series, right? I think it should be renewed for a second season, just to finish a story arc, or to give it its due diligence. Not trying to wrap it up. And you said they average to less than 30 minutes an episode of actual airtime. Like I don't think there's too much going on to wrap a bow on it. Like you said, maybe they're waiting to make an announcement at D23, the expo. That's happening in like 2 or 3 weeks.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe they're saving it for Celebration. Or maybe the review bonds actually worked and they're just like, you know what, we're not going to do this. I don't know.
I would be so sad that our fan base is that miserable, level of just, I'm going to bleep this out, that they spend their time sitting in their mother's basements, creating fake accounts like Dumbledore rocks, Jedi sucks at 69. Acolyte is a terrible show. 1 star, 1 star, 0 stars. Like, it just makes me sad that we're at that level of ridiculousness. So I hope Disney doesn't. I
would hope that. I would hope that as a company they look at like hard data, right? Like there are streaming data associated with this thing. There are all these kind of things associated with. I think that they can figure out a different way to justify if they want to continue a different season of this thing. That's the hope.
And I'm actually curious because I feel like the Acolyte didn't have like okay. So the Nielsen streaming charts for the Acolyte week 1. Acolyte is a pretty underwhelming number 7 on the original streaming charts. Has a week 1 viewership of 488 million minutes. I don't know what the.
I also read a chart somewhere though where this thing, like, yes, it's like toward like the bottom, but Andor actually performed worse, and they renewed that baby.
Oh,
so
yep. Yeah, Andor. So the Acolyte was about 6.26 million views. Ahsoka 8.5 million views, but I think Ahsoka had so much build up to it because you have the Clone Wars, you have Rebels, you have all this like pre-existing fandom of the new guard, so to speak, that people were, and Ahsoka is such a beloved character that doesn't surprise me. And then Andor, that actually kind of does surprise me. 5.43 million views, so it is in third place here, and I'm knowing how loved Rogue One is within our fandom. That kind of shocks me. So Eric, to kind of wrap up our recap, what are you looking forward to in episode 8, if anything, or you just want to take it all in the moment and be surprised?
Like, I don't know what a season 2 could be like for this, and so I actually want the whole story to wrap up in whatever time period. And you know what? Like, the show actually has been moving along really quickly, so maybe they will be able to wrap things up in 30 minutes. Hopefully, it's a little longer than that. And I wonder if the Acolyte becomes kind of like, what is it, Knives Out? Where, it's another Acolyte show, but guess what? These kind of things are happening all over the galaxy of random dudes who are trying to become Sith Lords. And here's another story that we don't hear about because the Jedi just brushed them under the rug or whatever, right? And then at least this becomes like a closing of a story, maybe. But I just don't know if we're going to be able to see enough of these characters that we're beginning to kind of really fall in love with a little bit, to see more of them in just one episode alone. And I don't like this idea of, the story continues in season 2 kind of situation. I'm going to be very unsatisfied if that's the case.
Yeah, I'm with you. All right, folks. Well, that was our recap of episode 7. We can't wait for episode 8. What did you think of episode 7? Shoot us a line at mailbag@geekyagogo.com, and we may feature it on a future episode, or leave us a comment in the comment section of our YouTube post or on our Facebook posts of this episode. We'd love to hear your tinfoil hat theories about the Acolyte. All right, Nitro, back to you for our regularly scheduled What You Watching?
I mean, the segment doesn't really need an introduction, right? Because this is what the show is all about. So let's dive right into it. Eric, what you watching?
The new season of Star Trek Prodigy is out. Surprise, I too am also a closet Trek fan as well. There's no reason why you have to pick a side between Star Wars and Star Trek. But
Yes, there is.
nah. The Star Trek Prodigy is a nice surprise. I think they started on Paramount, maybe, and then Netflix picked it up. And it's actually Star Trek has been doing some fantastic animated shows, and Prodigy is one of them. And for those who don't know, Prodigy takes place in timeline-wise, in Star Trek timeline-wise, around right after Star Trek Voyager ended, and so the show actually has a lot of cameos. And in season 3, which I think is the season I just watched, season 2, there has been kind of just a lot of really great story that's been tied in, and I really enjoyed it. I finished this all in 1 week. It's short episodes, you're talking about like 20-25 minutes kind of situation per episode, and it talks about this new crew of aliens actually who took over a new USS Starfleet ship and all the shenanigans that they got into. And what's interesting is I didn't notice this the first season around, but the second season I paid attention, where one of the main actors who are voicing this is the woman from Fallout. It's Ella something.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Purnell.
So
Yes.
because I started going like, well, now that I watched Fallout, I caught on to the voice and I went, wait a second, this sounds like her. And I looked and I was like, oh, that is her. And I never really honestly pay attention to a lot of credits, especially on streaming services. I just press skip and then jump straight to the content. And so that was a really nice surprise to kind of see that. So anyway, highly recommend it for those who didn't follow. It's a quick watch. You can see both seasons on Netflix, and I've really enjoyed it. And if you liked other Star Trek shows, you're definitely gonna like I think where this show was going.
Do you have to be a Star Trek fan to appreciate
I don't think
this?
so. I think Star Trek is, and this is what I was telling with folks. I think Star Trek has done TV really well, and they have figured out a way so that, yeah, they are universes, but the story is about story, right? It's about humanity. It's about discovering the unknown. It's about people's interaction with one another. Yes, the more you know about Star Trek, the deeper the cut some of these stories will be, right? Like, why do people get excited all of a sudden when this character shows up? I think like that will add to it. But look, also the fact that this is an animated series. It's not like I don't think they expect. Well, I don't know who the target audience for this, but it's animated. But like, let's say younger audiences, I don't think they expect people to have known all the different Star Treks before coming into this thing, right? And so, yeah, I don't think you need to do that. Oh, and also, I am pretty sure D. Bradley Baker is in this somewhere also. Our Star Wars voice legend. So yeah.
Nice.
Cool beans. I was gonna Google D. Bradley Baker, but I said, you know what? I don't really care because I'm not a Trekker.
Wait, hold up.
Either one.
But how D. Bradley Baker has voiced everything in Star Wars. You need to look him up.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, isn't he
not
the voice?
Pretty much everything.
Isn't he the voice of the
Yes.
clones? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because he did not voice K2SO.
Wow. everything else.
Maybe we should have a. Maybe we should do an episode about our favorite voiceover actors.
Was obviously Anthony
Good topic.
Pizzuto.
Thank you. Thank you.
Cool. Thank you, Eric. I'll move it on to me. Chris, what you watching? This week I watched The Iron Claw. It's a film, a biographical sports drama is what Wikipedia is calling it, about the Von Erich family, the Von Erichs, plural. It's a family of professional wrestlers that were cursed because a lot of them ended up passing away in very strange or unfortunate circumstances. But they kind of were helped with the glamorification of wrestling. So that period of 70s, late 70s into early 80s, like, right as we're going into WrestleMania and things like that. And so you have all these, if anybody's really into like wrestling lore, WWE and its precursor WWF and whatnot, people know about all the circuits and the kind of the franchises that are all over the country of people, wrestling. So the Von Erichs, they come up in what is at the time was called WCCW, which is World Class Championship Wrestling, and the patriarch of the family is Fritz Von Erich, and he kind of took this heel persona. Anthony, could you explain to us what the heel is?
Oh boy, isn't the heel?
I'm calling you out.
You are calling me out. Hold on. So there's the heel is the bad guy, and I think there's another one called the feel.
The face.
The face. I don't know why I thought it was heel and feel, but yeah. So the heel is like the villain. So like the Undertaker was the villain for a lot of people.
Fritz was actively wrestling, probably in the 50s to the 70s or something like that, and he took on the persona of post World War II German bad guy kind of thing. So their actual familiar name is Adkisson, but he took on the role of the Von Erich, the patriarch Fritz Von Erich, and he brought his sons into the industry, and they became this dynamo of like teaching everybody, and they have these schools and whatnot, and the family just went through the whole, like I said, a whole bunch of serious unfortunate accidents. One of them died while he was on tour in Japan. One of them committed suicide. At least one of them, I believe. One of them died very young, as a child, kind of thing, and it puts this, like I said, this so-called familial curse on it, right? So to the point where they talk about it in the film is like, the main protagonist played by Zac Efron. He plays, I think it's Kevin Von Erich. He doesn't want his son to have anything to do with like the Von Erichs or something like that, just because he doesn't want to fall into this familial curse or whatever. So great acting. Jeremy Allen White is in it, who he's becoming a really good actor in his own. I think we talked about The Bears briefly in previous episodes. Fantastic show. I'll talk about it in another episode if we have it. Zac Efron's in it. Jeremy Allen White. The patriarch is played by Holt McElhaney. He's been tons of films. Lily James is in it. So Maura Tierney, great cast, right? And there's Easter eggs in it because you meet some wrestling legends. You hear, about the Rhodes family, and that they want to buy out the school that the Von Erich started because they're financial troubles and things like that. So if you're a fan of wrestling, I highly recommend this film. I thought it was well done. It's a film. I don't know if it was completely factual, but if it wasn't completely biographical, it's semi-biographical. But I liked it. I liked it a lot.
Nice.
And I don't think Eric gave his disco balls, but I'll give mine. We'll get back to Eric. I'm giving the Iron Claw 4 disco balls. Eric, what about you?
Star Trek 4 balls.
Star Trek Prodigy. Are you?
Yeah.
4 balls? You're definitely a Trekker.
Yeah.
A Trekkie, I believe. That's the term.
Such a
No. Trekkies down, it's not serious fan, okay? Trekker.
Trekker!
No, it's Trekker.
So yeah, like I said.
Oh, I can't. Can I do that? Yeah. Is that it?
You got to do the
Did I
V.
do it right?
Yeah, that's it.
There.
No, is it thumb close or thumb out?
I could do both.
Wow, you're ambi.
Some people can do this. Apparently, I didn't know that.
Can't do this.
See, my fingers go like backwards when I do that, though.
This is great content for the podcast, guys.
We are on YouTube.
We'll save that. This is our after party.
Go to the after party to see our Vulcan death grip, our Vulcan hand signal, whatever it's called, because I'm not a Trekker like Eric is.
Oh my god.
So yeah, I recommend the Iron Claw a lot.
It has some really great scores on Rotten Tomatoes. It's 89% fresh, 94% audience score. Really great critics consensus and audience consensus. And Zac Efron, he is just an American treasure. He is a super talented individual. He plays funny. He plays dramatic. Like he is really a very talented individual. I just saw him in Family Affair on Netflix with Nicole Kidman, who is borderline unrecognizable these days.
Well, same as Zac Efron is also borderline unrecognizable these days.
He looks more like Zac Efron than Nicole Kidman looks like Nicole Kidman, though. Like she is. It's hard to watch her. She did a lot with that face of hers, which is so unfortunate and completely unnecessary. But Zac Efron's definitely had work done as well. But he is very talented. Funny guy.
We were just talking the other day
great actor.
here at the house around how overnight, sometimes in the last year, 2 years, Zac Efron has gone from playing kid roles to playing dads now. Like he's doing a lot of dad roles these days. In the past, I think year, there's actually been quite a few Zac Efron things that have come out, which I thought was interesting. How he has begun to transition himself into a different role, different kind of actor, which I enjoy watching.
Nice. Yep.
Cool. All right, Anthony.
All right.
Last but not least, what you watching?
Long Legs. Long Legs came out this past week. It's an hour and 41 minutes. The synopsis here on IMDb says, in pursuit of a serial killer, an FBI agent uncovers a series of occult clues that she must solve to end his terrifying killing spree. It's directed by Oz Perkins. Oz Perkins, I think he had his directorial debut with The Blackcoat's Daughter, starring Kiernan Shipka, who actually makes an appearance in this, which is a really good thriller, supernatural horror. He also did Gretel and Hansel, which is a very wacky, fantastical type of horror film. And so this show is very much in the vein of his directing style. It stars Micah Monroe, who is wonderful. My wife and I just watched her in God is a Bullet, where she's with one of the Skarsgårds, the one that played Pennywise. But she's also been in Significant Other. She was in, The Stranger. Watcher. She's been in a lot of things. And then I didn't realize this going into it because I tried to avoid anything like leading up to it as much as possible, because the marketing campaign for this film was super shady and suspicious. What do I mean by that? I mean, like, the first trailer was just like weird characters, and I don't even think it even dropped the name. It just said coming from Neon, which is a film production company that does lots of wacky, weird horror thriller type of films. And the trailers just got weirder and weirder. So knowing that, I tried to avoid as much as possible. It wasn't until I was sitting in the theater that I realized that Nicolas Cage was in it. Okay. Nicolas Cage has had a very lengthy career. Nicolas Cage has become a caricature
of himself.
Of himself.
Yes.
We could probably do an episode on Nicolas Cage. Maybe you want to save some of this.
I will save some of it. So I wish they had not said Nicolas Cage in the opening credits. I wish, not that I noticed before coming to it, but I hope that they didn't reveal that Nicolas Cage was in it at all, because that immediately changed my mood about the film. I'm like, oh, it's a Nicolas Cage movie. I'll beep that out. But in his and Oz Perkins' defense, they did a good job with his makeup that they actually could have hidden the fact that Nicolas Cage was in it until the final credits, because he was unrecognizable physically as himself. It wasn't until he started doing weird Nicolas Cage things, like singing really loud in the car at particular moments, or doing his weird long ass screaming things that Nicolas Cage does. It was like, God, it's Nicolas Cage. Anyway, that aside, I forget what reputable review source said this, but there's been many saying that this is the scariest movie of the year. Hell, it's July. We still have a few months left. It's okay. There are some jump scares. Micah Monroe plays an FBI agent who is psychic. This is 1980, 84 or 88. She's a psychic, so I guess they bring her on sites to kind of get a vibe as to what's going on, to help them find criminals and things like this. Anyway, she becomes the target of this serial killer called Longlegs. And this person sometimes just has this presence at the scene of these very gratuitous crime scenes, always involving a child and their family, with the exception of one time where the child escapes. As we go through the course of the film, and Micah Monroe, she does a wonderful job. She plays almost a borderline stoic, socially awkward, quiet. You almost get an eerie vibe from her at points throughout the film. Anyway, she becomes the target of Longlegs. He starts leaving like little clues for her. I'm not going to spoil the film because it's still out, and I think it's going to have a good run to it. But I will say, what you think, if you're going into it fresh, if you think you're expecting a classic monster movie horror film when you think of the name Longlegs, you're not. You start with almost like a procedural thriller in the vein of Chianti, Silence of the Lambs, in the vein of Silence of the Lambs, but then it takes a turn into the supernatural. and that's where I was it was like, interesting twist here. I was expecting to start with supernatural, but I was accepting the fact that this was just going to be a serial killer movie, and then it went supernatural. So you get a lot of like emotional turmoil throughout the film. But anyway, I don't think it's the scariest movie of the year. That just kind of lowers the bar, I think, for other horror movies that might be coming out. No offense to Oz Perkins, he has had a great canon of work already. Is it scary? Yes. Kind of going back to what I was saying about, this was pre-recording when we were talking about X and Pearl, where they're like filmed in the vein of the time period that they're set in. There's the movie actually starts looking like a 1970s film, with the same type of music that you would see in a 1970s film. I think it was 4:3 aspect ratio to start with, and then it kind of spreads out as we get into like the 80s. It was really interesting creative choice there. Go see it if you like scares. Just know that you're going to be kind of twisted and turned. Try to forget that it's Nicolas Cage in the movie. I think that'll make your viewing experience a little bit better. He does do a really great job of playing this creepy, almost non-binary. Like when you first see him, I thought it was a woman, and I thought he was playing a woman. Then I thought he was playing a transgendered woman, and then they identified him as a him. It was lots of like twists and turns in this film. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. I will give it 3.5 disco balls, only because it was so talked up as being the scariest movie of the year, and it was not the scariest movie of the year. But I enjoyed it, and I suggest.
Wait, hold on. So, you've seen all these scary movies. You're saying, would it be in the top X this year of all the movies you've seen? Where would you place that in your top list of movies that you've seen? Is it up there, or is it just not even close?
The top movies I've seen this year, or in
this year.
My life? Oh, this year. Oh. It's probably 11. I wouldn't put it in the top 10.
Ooh, not even close. Put it in the top 10. Okay.
Yeah. I would put it in the 11. And I'd have to kind of go back through the record to see what I watched, because we probably watch 2 horror movies like every weekend, so we're halfway through the year. That's 100 possibly horror movies this year so far. So we watch a lot of horror movies. I like horror movies. I don't want to do a spoiler for our episode where we talk about horror movies, but I like movies that make you feel uncomfortable. That's a good horror movie. That gives you that kind of physical transformation where you get the goosebumps, you feel uncomfortable. Didn't get much of that in here. Like I said, there's a few jump scares. The plot is interesting. The supernatural component was interesting as well. But scariest movie of the year, no.
Which, by the way, a quick shout out to Neon, right? You talked about that. I think that they've branched away from just doing horror. I think they've done a lot of kind of independent film distributions. You remember how we talked about Robot Dreams? I'm pretty sure that was a Neon distribution as well.
Okay, yeah.
And I know we're going to go deep in our Nicolas Cage list, but one of my favorite, his reason where he does the Truffle Hunter pig, I think that was the movie.
Yes.
That was also Neon. And I think Parasite was Neon, I, Tonya was Neon, so there's quite a lot. And for those who don't know, like, I'm pretty sure Neon was co-started by the Alamo Drafthouse guy. Tim Lee.
Kidding. Really? I didn't realize that.
And so,
okay,
I like the way he runs his theaters back in the days, and I like the way that he picked his films. So I'm a huge fan of this independent film distribution producing kind of company.
Love it. Yes, and Parasite was great. So Ferrari, which is a non-thriller, but another fantastic kind of biopic. They have a good collection of films under their belt.
Cool. I mean, it sounded like you're being generous when you were saying 3.5, but you were like, I would like to give it more.
I want to give it more just because they did it start like the marketing. It's always the marketing that gets you. And like it started with like these really eerie, cryptic, it harkens me back to the days of like Blair Witch, like where they started like dropping like the newspaper articles and they stood up a website to make you think that it was all real. Or even Cloverfield. All the actors in Cloverfield, they had MySpace pages and like they just stopped communicating on the day of the event. It's so good. That was so good. And so when you line up great marketing with a really interesting film and a concept that's new, like Blair Witch had never been done before. Cloverfield was kind of a riff off of Blair Witch, but still now you took it to an extraterrestrial perspective. This film started like on the indie marketing circuit. You started seeing like articles about it in Bloody Disgusting saying, look what just dropped from Neon. What the heck is this? There's nothing about it. It's just these weird, what's it telling us? And you were expecting, you go in with these expectations that it's going to be super creepy and super goose fleshy. And at least for me, it wasn't the case.
Fair. I'm trying. The only thing I could think of is like Nick Cage and Mandy. Like when you describe Nick Cage in this film, and I'm like,
Nick Cage is honest in that he there's a period of his life where he needed to pay off his debt. All right, so he's not ashamed of it. He's making money doing great films, and let's save this for a Nicolas Cage deep dive because this guy has had quite a career that I think we can talk a lot of our favorite Nick Cage films.
Oh, absolutely.
Cool. All right. I guess I'll take us out.
All right.
Do you want more Geeky A Go-Go? Well, make sure you're following us on all the socials at Geeky A Go-Go and share with us what you're watching. Want cool stuff? Want to connect with us on a higher level, like on our Discord channel? Head on over to patreon.com/geekyagogo and support the show. You'll get awesome swag and other perks. If you haven't done so already, make sure you're following the show on your favorite podcast platform and leave us a review. Thanks so much for listening. Peace out, everybody.
Bye.